Hi there, my name is James Heidema. The question today is, why do the advisors not follow my advice? So, why don't they follow my advice? I'm a skilled manager. I've been in the business for a while. I've got team members. I sell on a regular basis. I've got a client base. It's working for me. I figured a lot of things out. But it seems whenever I dispense information, whenever I share information with the team members, it falls on deaf ears. It's like I'm talking to the wall. Nothing much changes. Well, the mistake is, Ms. or Mr. Manager, you're making the mistake. You're dispensing information too easily. And you're not putting it in a framework that the team member understands. So when a team member comes to you and they're having a problem in some area of their business, naturally you want to share the advice of how they can resolve that. Unfortunately, you don't spend enough time before you dispense the information. And the tool that we're going to use is the tool that I talked about in the last video called the gap analysis. And the gap analysis is a mental process. It's your approach to problem solving. And so what you want to think about, here's an example. You know, if I take this cup and I fill it to the very brim, actually I can overfill it and it'll still stay in the cup. And that's what people are like when we interact with them. They're full of their lives and whatever. Even though they may come and say to you, I need help, there's no room for your help. So what you literally, figuratively have to do is drink some of it. How do you do that? Well, you ask them questions, okay? So let's take an example. Let's say that an individual on your team is having trouble on the telephone. They have people to call, they call them, but they can't seem to arrange an appointment for whatever reason. So what you want to do with the gap analysis, again, the gap analysis starts with the current situation and moves towards the desired situation. So where are they now and where would you like them to be? Okay? So current situation, you say to them, okay, well, call me. Call me, pretend I'm a referral, and you're trying to set up an appointment. And they go through the process, and at the end of the process, regardless of how well it went, and you act like a normal customer and you may raise some objections, whatever, but regardless of how it went, at the end of it, you use another tool called the plus delta. The plus being, what did they do well? The delta, the triangle, the Greek symbol for change. What did they do well? What could they change? So you say to them, okay, tell me, when you review what you've just done, that meeting that we just had on the phone, what do you think you did well? Now, maybe it didn't end well, and maybe they feel they didn't do anything well, and they say that, I didn't do anything well. You say, well, really, let's look at each piece of it and see how you behaved, and tell me what you did well. And they say, tell you one or two things, and then you say, well, okay, I also see that you did this, and you did something else very well. Okay? Okay, next is, what do you think you could change? And they say, well, I could probably change this, or I could change that, or I need to change everything, whatever. You say, okay, all right. May I give you some feedback? And this is my procedure, my policy, my attitude when I work with team members. Before I give them feedback on their performance, I always ask permission. You know, when I ask permission, it's like I'm reaching across the table and shaking their hand. If they say, yes, you can give me some feedback, they've told me two things. One is that I have permission to speak, and two, they're prepared to listen. And I say, okay, what could you change? Well, there's a couple things that you could change. One is you could do this, the other you could do that. Now, I'm always going to minimize the number of changes I want them to do to one or two things. I don't want that to load them up with 6 or 7, because they'll never do 6 or 7. 1 or 2, they can manage. All right, makes sense? So the plus delta is what you do after every time they show you the current situation. You know, what did you do well, and what do you think you could change? And you give feedback on that. Okay, now you're beginning to move them towards the desired situation. The desired situation, to get people to move from where they are to somewhere else, is a series of steps. It's not a straight line. It's not like you have one meeting with them and suddenly they transform overnight. It's where they gradually move step by step until they get to the desired situation. And so every time you get them to talk about what they've done well, it solidifies one of those steps. And every time you get them to identify what they could possibly change, that becomes the next thing they focus on. So at the end of this gap analysis and plus delta, I will say to them, okay, remind me again what you're going to do differently in your next telephone call, okay? And they identify what they're going to do in the next telephone call. And then you begin to see, over time, a change in their behavior and a change in their results. Now, another tool I use, which is inherent in the middle of the gap analysis, is role play. I always role play. I role play when I train, I role play when I coach, and I role play when I lead. So anytime that anybody comes to me with a question in any of those processes, I always say to them, okay, let's role play. Call me, or let's hold that part of the appointment. Let's deal with the referrals, whatever. Show me what you can do. So I put them into the situation. Rather than having a mental or intellectual process, what I do is I put them in the situation and I observe how they behave. And that gives me lots of information of how I can help. If you want to be more effective as a manager, if you want to get better results, then use the gap analysis, use the plus delta, use the role play. I guarantee, a guarantee from Jim, if you role play, if you use the gap analysis, and you do the plus delta, you will improve results. I guarantee it. I hope this helps. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with others if you would. Thank you very much for taking the time. Bye for now.